Georgia was incorporated into the Russian Empire by armed force in 1801. Following the breakup of the Russian Empire, Georgia restored its independence in 1918. The First Democratic Republic of Georgia. May the 26th, Tbilisi, Georgia.
Fellow citizens, in this very chamber, one country has died, the Transcaucasian Democratic Federalist Republic. And now, in this same chamber, the foundations are being laid for a new country, a democratic Georgia.
These are the words with which Noé Jordania, future chairman of the Georgian government, addressed the members of the National Council as the country adopted its act of independence. Georgia's Declaration of Independence. With this text, the founders of this new Georgia stated the principles on which their country would be established.
Independent Georgia will take the political form of a democratic republic. Within its borders, the Democratic Republic of Georgia guarantees equally the civil and political rights of every citizen, irrespective of ethnicity, nationality, religious faith, social condition, or sex.
February 1919. Parliamentary elections are held in Georgia. The citizens of the country give free expression to their own political will. The Social Democratic Party wins the majority of votes and goes on to form a government. In the country's supreme legislative body, elected deputies from 3 other parties form an opposition party. 5 women, as well as representatives from almost every ethnic minority living in Georgia, enter the country's parliament, the Constituent Assembly. The Georgian Democratic Republic, which was in existence for a mere 3 years, was the first social democratic country in Europe. 1920, September. Members of the Second International visit Georgia. Ethel Snowdon, member of the British Labour Party.
You're very close to the country of terror, and yet you've resolved to fight them even unto death. I promise you that as soon as we return to Europe, our delegation will use every means at its disposal to raise awareness of Georgia's independence and to establish economic relations with you.
Albert Ingalls, Executive Director of the Second International.
What I saw during 2 days was true bravery. Nowhere else have I seen such a fearless nation.
During the period of the First Republic's existence, important new policies were implemented. The boundaries of the state were established, agricultural issues were resolved according to the interests of working people in the countryside, the government was divided into legislative, executive and judicial branches. Equality before the law was enshrined in legislation, the judiciary was reformed, a regular army was created and a People's Guard was formed. Institutions of local government were created through democratic elections, as were trade unions. Political pluralism was guaranteed through the creation of a multi-party system. Protections were introduced to ensure freedom of speech, freedom of the press, and the free operation of religious, cultural, and educational institutions. Universal suffrage was introduced, along with many other civil rights. In February 1921, Georgia adopted a constitution, a document which still has a place of honor in constitutional history, thanks to its spirit of freedom and inherently democratic outlook. This document reveals a lot about life in the Georgian state at the time, as well as the concerns and attitudes of people during this period. The Constitution affirms the equality of all citizens before the law and outlaws discrimination based on social class. It affirms the equality of both sexes and guarantees their political, civil, economic and domestic rights. During its 3 years of existence, more than 20 foreign states, including Russia, formally recognized Georgia's independence. Following the restoration of statehood, Georgia focused its foreign policy on both gaining international recognition of its sovereignty and conducting independent foreign relations. Georgia opened diplomatic missions in Central Europe, Austria, Italy, Germany, and the Swiss Confederation. News footage of the fighting in February 1921. Despite this recognition, In February 1921, Soviet Russia attacked and occupied Georgia. (1991) News footage of the restoration of Georgian independence. In 1991, Georgia regained its independence. Independent Georgia is the legal and political heir of the First Republic, and even today, the state is founded on the same values that were adopted 100 years ago by our forebears in the Declaration of Independence and the country's constitution.
I am Georgian and therefore I am European.
Since that time, Georgia has been progressing towards EU integration path, introducing forward-thinking reforms, strengthening democracy, the rule of law, protecting human rights, and building a liberal economy. Today, Georgia is an associate country of the European Union and an aspirant country of NATO, recognized as a leading reformer by its partners.
I always wanted to perform in a theatre. I always wanted to address the United Nations. Well, here I am, ladies and gentlemen. The most beautiful theatre in South Africa, filled by beautiful people. Beautiful people who love to be associated with Georgia, its citizens, and the Embassy of Georgia. Ladies and gentlemen, let us give Georgia, its citizens, and the Embassy of Georgia a loud and warm applause in celebrating this important day in their history. Thank you. I think it was a good icebreaker, and it should put everybody in a celebratory mood. My name is Marius Heinz. I have the honor of being the Master of Ceremony tonight. It is my function to make sure that the program runs smoothly, but more importantly, that everybody enjoy a very memorable evening. Before we proceed with the program, and the program was attached to the invitation, please allow me to speak a few words, or to say a few words about His Excellency Ambassador Becca Diwali and his staff, the dear colleagues from the Georgian Embassy. As a former South African diplomat myself, I have worked with many, many ambassadors, and I can say without any doubt that His Excellency Becca Diwali is by far one of the smartest and hardworking and efficient ambassadors I've ever come across. With limited resources, he has managed to cultivate and cement a rather small staff to become the A-team. And jointly, they managed in a very efficient manner to cover 12 countries in the SADC region. And that is a sign of leadership, leading by example. A few remarks about Georgian hospitality. I've been 8 times to Georgia, and in a manner of speaking, I still have to pay for my first glass of wine. I still have to pay for my first plate of food. I still have to walk on a carpet with a color other than red. This is the way South Africans and foreigners are received in Georgia. When I or members of our business chamber visit the embassy, we are always greeted in a very friendly manner. We are always greeted with a smile. We are always greeted as if we are members of a huge family. And ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who have not been to Georgia as yet, please put a visit to the beautiful country of Georgia, high up on your list, I thank you. Could we please all rise for the two national anthems? Ladies and gentlemen, the national anthem of Georgia. Now the national anthem of South Africa. Thank you. You may be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, good protocol require from me to do a bit of reading. Honourable Representative of the South African Government, Chief Holomisa, Deputy Minister of Labour, Your Excellencies, Ambassadors, High Commissioners, Honourable Members of the Diplomatic Corps, Management and members of the Southern Africa Georgia Chamber of Commerce, dear Georgians in South Africa present here tonight. I have now the honor to invite to this podium His Excellency, the Georgian Ambassador to South Africa, Mr. Becca Diwali, to deliver his address. Ambassador.
Thank you. Good evening, dear colleagues, dear friends. Thank you very much, Program Director, for these words of candid words. It was not planned, unplanned. Honorable Representative, Chief Holomisa, Deputy Minister of Labour, thank you very much for coming and honoring us with your presence. All our our dear colleagues from the Department of International Relations and Cooperation, DIRCO, dear colleagues from other departments of South Africa, Your Excellencies, dear colleagues, ambassadors, high commissioners, Your Excellency, Mr. Ben Mpoko, the Dean of the Diplomatic Corps, thank you very much for being here. Dear colleagues, members of the Diplomatic Corps, Mr. Motusi Serumola, we have here our Honorary Consul in Gaborone, Botswana, and Mr. Serumola, thank you very much for coming over. Fellow Georgians, ladies and gentlemen, I personally and my colleagues from Georgian Embassy in Pretoria are truly thrilled and humbled to have so many of you coming to celebrate with us Georgia's Independence Day and 100 years of the establishment of Georgia's first democratic republic. We are truly thankful for you being here. And it is such a pleasant coincidence that in 2018, South Africa also marks important centenary, 100 years from the birthday of Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela, founding father of a democratic South Africa and its first president. On behalf of Georgia, allow me to congratulate South Africa, people of South Africa, and truly entire world on this occasion, because Mandela is truly a figure that is appreciated worldwide. Mandela has inspired and will continue to inspire generations worldwide by the very character of its example of selfless service to this very beautiful nation of South Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, Georgia's statehood in a form of a kingdom dates back to millennia, but it was only on 26 May 1918 when the first Democratic Republic of Georgia was born. It brought to all Georgian citizens equality of rights and delivered the freedoms which were quite unique even in Europe and in many other parts of the world of the second decade of the 20th century. A number of freedoms, a number of rights that were quite unique by then. First Georgian Republic and its promising prospects for our nation lasted only 3 years. In 1921, this freedom was taken from us by Soviet invasion, and only on 9 April 1991, Georgia managed to restore its independence and its democratic republic. And for that, credit goes to our courageous forefathers who made that 1918 declaration of Georgian Republic a reality in the post-First World War turbulent setting. We cherish their memory, their achievements, and always remember all Georgian men and women who fell heroically while defending Georgian Republic, or during all those years after occupation, continued fearless struggle to restore Georgia's independence. And today we are proud that 27 years ago, already contemporary generations of Georgians managed to reclaim our statehood and our democracy and carry the ideals of the First Republic to new heights. Never before in its history has Georgia been so deeply integrated with global community. Never before Georgia has had so many friends and allies worldwide. Never before Georgia has forged partnerships so effectively with its neighborhood, with our European family of nations and beyond. Georgia continues its steadfast progress and process of integration with the European Union and with the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, and has no doubt that sooner rather than later, we shall manage to become fully fledged member of the both organizations, as this is the will of the people of Georgia. Truly outstanding are Georgia's achievements in state building, comprehensive reforms, and remarkable is Georgia's role as a positive force and a real contributor to international peace and security, and a reliable ally for all freedom-loving nations. And all this ladies and gentlemen, all these achievements during the last couple of decades have been attained despite continued, fully fledged, hybrid kind of assault on our democracy, on our sovereignty, and on our territorial integrity, and on our freedom, regrettably from one of our immediate neighbors, still on a mission to crush our statehood. This is a confrontation we have not picked, as Georgian nation has always been guided by the truism, so well enshrined in the 12th century Georgian Renaissance poet, Shota Rustaveli's eternal poem, The Knight in the Panther's Skin. Rustaveli said, "Who seeks not a friend is his own foe." As Georgia's two historical territories of Abkhazia and Tkhinvali region continue to be illegally occupied by Russian troops, and as Georgia continues its purely peaceful efforts to restore its territorial integrity, we are grateful to have enjoyed international solidarity globally, including from South Africa and from all other African nations, in supporting Georgia's sovereignty and territorial integrity, and first and foremost, supporting international law and order and the United Nations Charter-based system, the olive branch that all of us depend on. But regrettably, there are some exceptions. On 29 May, just last week, 29 May of 2018, joining Russia, Venezuela, Nicaragua, and Nauru, a shameful regime of Syria, manipulated by Moscow, breached international law yet once again, and in its own world of brutality and lawlessness, started to call Georgia's historical territories of Abkhazia and Tkhinvali region independent states. Same day, Georgia started diplomatic process of cutting diplomatic ties with Syrian regime with a hope and confidence that sooner rather than later, sanity and justice will return to that land, and Georgia will restore diplomatic ties with Syrian people, with whom we have interacted throughout our millennia-old history, and many of whom, many Syrians, currently live as refugees in my country. And here I cannot but emphasize that Georgia nowadays has brilliant relations with every other Arab nation. There is a real boom in Georgia-Arab relations currently. The attempts to crush yet once again Georgian democracy are futile. To apply Mandela's principles pronounced at the Rivonia trial, allow me to make it clear that sovereign, democratic, united, prosperous Georgia, fully integrated within European family and having strong alliances and bilateral partnerships globally, is the ideal which all Georgians hope to live for and to see realized. But if need be, it is an ideal for which we are prepared to die. Georgia has been blessed for the historical opportunities, ladies and gentlemen, of forging ties throughout African continents with our brothers and sisters here in South Africa, as well as with all other nations on the continent, including the entire region of Southern African Development Community, SADC. With our South African and African partners, we have shared experiences of struggle for independence, shared ideals of liberty and human rights, and strong desire of improving the lives of all our citizens in current turbulent international global environment. I would like to extend gratitude to South African, Georgian government, and to DIRCO specifically for continued support to all our diplomatic initiatives and efforts. Currently, we look forward to having yet another round of bilateral consultations to take our partnership even to higher level. We are grateful for the recent decision by South African government to start issuing long-term multi-entry visas to Georgian citizens, and we are hopeful that soon South Africa will reciprocate to Georgia with total lifting of visa requirements for Georgian citizens. This will be conducive to bilateral partnership and catapult people-to-people contacts definitely. We are keen to continue hard work together with DIRCO to seize all opportunities that bilateral relations entail. We support and look forward to South Africa's tenure as a non-permanent member in the United Nations Security Council for the period of 2019-2020, soon to be formalized, and commend these friendly nations' dedication to strengthening international peace and security on this continent and beyond, as well as to highlighting the centrality of multilateralism and primacy of human rights and humanitarian law. I have recently completed yet another round of visits in all the countries of my domain in SADC region, and have strengthened optimism in vast opportunities of further advancing ties not only with South Africa, but also with Angola, Botswana, Lesotho, Mauritius, Madagascar, Mozambique, Namibia, Eswatini, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Democratic Republic of Congo. I would like to extend gratitude to all ambassadors and high commissioners in Pretoria of these countries of my accreditation for continued support to my mission and for being additional valuable bridge between Georgia and the friendly nations of this government. As we speak, we witness an increased number of business ventures ongoing between Georgia and South Africa and Southern Africa, increased interactions between various regions, increased awareness about each other, and increased the amount of travelers exchanging visits. I want to take this opportunity and express gratitude to Southern Africa Georgia Chamber of Commerce, to its chairman, Mr. Heinz, once again, and to all members for their dedication, dedicated work to give new dynamism to relations between Georgia and all the countries in SADC region, and especially business interactions. I also have the privilege of extending words of gratitude to Dr. Gerald Wallman, Honorary Consul of Georgia in Cape Town, to Mr. Tusi Serumola, Honorary Consul of Georgia in Gaborone, Botswana, and to Mr. Antonio Dengo Muhau, to Honorary Consul of Georgia in Maputo, Mozambique, who are doing really historical and monumental work at the beginnings of relationships between Georgia and all those nations. Ladies and gentlemen, next you will enjoy a very exciting performance by a young Georgian multi-talented piano player, Sophie Levjawa. But when the performance is done and we are outside this hall, please don't leave. Stay with us, because believe me, Monday evening is a very good occasion to raise a lot of Georgian toasts with Georgian outstanding wine. Very nice beginning of a working week, believe me. And in the end, God bless Georgia, God bless South Africa, and long live to our friendship. Thank you.
His Excellency Becca Diwali, we thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I now have the honor to invite to this podium the official representative of the South African government, Chief Holomisa, Deputy Minister of Labour.
Program Director, Ambassador Becca Diwali, and Mrs. Diwali, the Dean of the Diplomatic Corps, Ambassador Mpoko, Excellencies, members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Where I come from, when people say good evening, they respond and say good evening. On behalf of the government and the people of the Republic of South Africa, it is a pleasure and a great honor for me to convey to you, Excellency, our warmest greetings and congratulations to the government and the people of Georgia on the occasion of the celebration of the centenary of the establishment of Georgia's first democratic republic. The year 2018 is indeed a remarkable year for both of our countries. While Georgia celebrates the centenary of Georgia's democracy, South Africa celebrates the centenary of the late President Nelson Mandela and Mama Albertina Sisulu. As President Cyril Ramaphosa said, in celebrating the centenary of Nelson Mandela, we're not merely honoring the past, we're building the future. Excellency, I would like to assert that South Africa continues to value its bilateral relations with Georgia, which are based on shared values and mutual respect for the principles of international law, territorial integrity, and sovereignty of states. South Africa takes this opportunity to affirm her commitment to strengthen our relations with Georgia and building the future of our respective countries. As you may be aware, President Ramaphosa has committed himself to a new dawn in rebuilding South Africa and her relations with the international community. Now more than ever, South Africa is open for business. In this light, I would like to commend the South Africa-Georgia Chamber of Commerce on its successful endeavors to encourage trade and investment, as well as training in the hospitality and agriculture sectors. I'm aware that the Chamber has also actively been promoting people-to-people relations between South Africans and Georgians through the Winemakers Exchange Program and between the Rabbi Academies. On a lighter note, let me say that the Junior Springboks had to put up a good fight for a victory against the Georgian rugby team on Wednesday evening when the two teams met during the Under-20 World Cup Championships in France. Your Excellency, while we acknowledge that our bilateral relations need to be supported by a more robust legal framework of agreements in key areas of cooperation, I am pleased to recall that our two countries continue to consult on closer cooperation in various areas, such as arts and culture, sports, academic, and research institutions, amongst others. I must commend the work already done in terms of our visa regime and improvement in our trade relations. The easing of the visa regime for Georgian citizens augurs well for the strengthening of trade and economic relations, tourism, and people-to-people contact. We recognize that the ultimate desire is for a reciprocal visa-free agreement between our two countries. South Africa looks forward to hosting the third South Africa-Georgia political consultations later this year to take the work forward. On the multilateral front, South Africa appreciates the cooperation we enjoy with Georgia on issues of mutual interest within various international fora, supporting our joint commitment to contribute to the establishment of a peaceful, just, and democratic global governance system. As co-chair of the Open Government Partnership, we'll be looking up to Georgia's leadership when you host the 5th OGP Global Summit in Tbilisi in July. We look forward to participating in this multilateral initiative, which aims to secure concrete commitments from governments to promote transparency, to empower citizens, to fight corruption, and harness new technologies to strengthen good governance. On that note, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of President Ramaphosa, the government and the people of the Republic of South Africa, I convey our best wishes to the government and the people of Georgia for its Independence Day celebrations, and take this opportunity to extend our heartfelt gratitude for the growing friendship between our respective countries. May our relations continue to prosper to benefit the people of South Africa and the people of Georgia. I thank you.
Deputy Minister of Labour, Chief Holomisa, we thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, now please allow me to introduce Ms. Sophie Lejava. I did practice the pronunciation of the surname, so I think I'm pretty much accurate. Sophie is a well-known pianist. I think it's fair to say one of the rising stars on the Georgian horizon. She's a well-established, well-known Georgian pianist, specifically in classical music. She also is an active actress in various Georgian TV series, and she recently participated in X Factor, a program. And we are glad Well, first of all, we would love her to win, but we're glad that she's here tonight. Otherwise, we would have missed out on the opportunity for her to perform. Ladies and gentlemen, Sophie will now honor us with a brief performance of Georgian and other classical composers. Please enjoy.
Ambassador Dwali and his amazing, lovely wife Nino for giving me this opportunity. It really means a lot. So today I already played 2 pieces by Chopin because it's my favorite composer. And right now, because today is a very important day for Georgia, I want to share with you Georgian music and culture. So I'm going to play Georgian composer Reva Zlatidze and hope you like it. Thank you again.
Wow, that's perhaps the best way to describe the performance. What a talent. I'm sure we will in future hear a lot from Sophie, and I'm also convinced after what we have seen now that this is not a last visit to South Africa. I have some good news for you, that she will be performing tomorrow evening in the same theater. I was told there are some tickets available, so please make sure it's better than watching TV tomorrow evening. Please come and support and enjoy the wonderful music. She's indeed a talent. And I want to use this opportunity to wish Sophie well with the rest of her visit to South Africa. Whilst on the subject of well-wishing, ladies and gentlemen, please allow me also to thank the Brooklyn Theatre, Willem Vogel, Daniel Vos, John Pierre Verster. Willem, you specifically, because we worked directly with you. It's nice to be back here. It's always nice to work with you guys. You are a very professional team. On behalf of the embassy, we really appreciate the manner in which you are treating us. You are helping us to make events like this a big success. And it's good to see that over the past few years, more and more embassies are using the Brooklyn Theatre, which in my opinion is one of the best theatres in South Africa, as their venue. And let's continue to support Brooklyn Theatre. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I now declare the formal part of our evening completed. It was indeed an honor for me to be your master of ceremony tonight. I must confess, you are a good audience. It was a real pleasure to stand in front of you. I hope, and we, on behalf of the embassy, we hope that you will continue to enjoy the evening with us. You are now invited to join us outside this hall and to enjoy typical Georgian hospitality, good food, good wine, and just have a memorable evening with us. I thank you very much.